Yo, yo, what's up? Welcome back to the Roundtable Talk. I am your host, C Money, and we are back here at History and Hotspots in South Florida, here in Crandon Park. This is part two. If you just joining us, let me give you a recap of what's been going on. In part one, I showed you we are visiting the Crandon Park and the old location for the Crandon Park Zoo here in Key Biscayne. And to give you a background of the information, this park opened up in 1947 and the actual zoo opened up in 1948 because of a traveling circus that broke down in the area, and I think they either got bankrupt or went out of business, one or the other. I don't remember. And it ended up becoming to where the animals had to stay here, and they ended up becoming Crandon Park Zoo. The zoo opened up from 1948 to 1980 when it moved over to its new location and got renamed from Crandon Park Zoo to Miami Metro Zoo, and then eventually in the early 2000s they changed the name to Zoo Miami. If you visit us in part one, you saw that we did do several locations. We visited this is where the monkeys would be at in this area. We did visited the area where they had the lions and tigers, the encaged areas, and they had several areas here. Now this here is roped off. Now I don't know what this is, but I'm not going in there because a lot of the area has been roped off due to inclement weather. You know, a lot of the areas was part of the zoo, and when the zoo got closed, I don't know what happened. If you was one of the people who did visited the zoo, comment, because I would love to know what happened after the zoo left. Was this area section closed off? You know, because I saw there are several YouTube videos that are doing the same thing that I'm doing, taking a tour of this area, which was, you know, and giving you information about the Crandon Park Zoo. Now the locations, you know, was it roped off after the zoo left? Did they close this area off, or was it reopened back to a public as a free area? Because, you know, I'm quite sure you had to pay to get inside of the zoo, and it probably had a section where, you know, the ticket area was, where you know, pay to get in, and then, you know, you walk around the park and stuff. From the looks of this park, from the zoo area, it doesn't look big, and it doesn't look like, I mean, it's big. I'm not gonna go too far. I'm gonna go a little bit, and we're gonna turn around and go back the other way, because I do want to do another view of more of the rest of Crandon Park, because we only did a little bit of walkthrough from Crandon Park, so I do want to do a little more digging. And that's why I say we're gonna do probably another part three. I was resting over there where, at the beginning of this episode, I was over there by the where they have the monkeys caged up and things like that. See over here, this is where they have the lions and tigers encaged. Over there, there is a little area. I'm trying to find the area where I saw, you know, a abandoned area. And I was trying to figure out, oh, that area right there. You see right there? I'm gonna zoom in on the area. That area right there, that is part of the zoo as well too. If you have any information on that, you know, feel free. Like I was saying in the first video, if you visited this zoo, you know, back then, or if you have memories of this park, or if you know any information that you can share, don't hesitate to comment here in the comment section of this page. You can also email me, roundtable00@yahoo.com. There was an older couple who I watched the video with on YouTube, and they remember this park because they, you know, visited the park, and they knew a lot of the areas in this park. And I watched the video, and I was happily, you know, like satisfied to see that they remember a lot of the park. Now there is not much footage of this park back then when it was called the Crandon Park Zoo. There's not a lot of footage of this park. You can YouTube it, you can Google it. If you Google Crandon Park Zoo, all they're going to give you is information on Crandon Park. And if you Google information on Crandon Park, it's going to tell you, yeah, they had a zoo that was housed there, but it doesn't tell you when the zoo was housed, you know. But I did do I tried to do a little bit more digging, and the zoo opened up in 1948, a year after this park opened up, which was the same year that the Rickenbacker Causeway opened up, which opened up in 1947. Remember, I told you Key Biscayne, and I said this in several videos because I did a video at Bill Baggs Cape Florida State Park, and I did a video at Virginia Key Beach, which is another location, you know, just north of this location, where I said before in the early 1940s and 30s and 20s and stuff like that, this area called Key Biscayne was only accessible by boat. Remember, historic Virginia Key Beach was back then the only black park in Miami that the blacks can go to, and it was a segregated park, and they can only access it by boat up until 1947 when they built the Rickenbacker Causeway, which allowed pedestrian and vehicle traffic to flow through the area. So it got to where a lot of this area ended up becoming more popular. And then in the 1948, you know, a year after this park was created, they created the Crandon Park Zoo, which was Miami's first and only zoo, and it ran up until 1980. And it was one of the reasons that I said that it moved is roughly because of the climate change and the weather, the bad weather and stuff like that. You do realize that Crandon Park sits near the ocean, you know, and you know, a lot of hurricanes that came through here, like there was a hurricane that came here and it killed a lot of animals. Like, I don't remember the hurricane name, but you know, like I said, there's not much information on here that gives you a lot of details about this park. But like I said, there was a hurricane that came and it damaged and it killed quite a few animals. Probably like over 100 animals, if I'm not mistaken. Like we did this in part one, where I said this probably had to be a crocodile based area where you can see the crocodiles and stuff like that. So this probably was one of the areas here we're gonna, you know, because this look like an area where crocodiles will be, you know. And now it sits here abandoned. Well, it's not really abandoned. They haven't made any use for it. I would have made use for it. I would have probably turned it into a little pond or something where you can walk around. You see there's a lot of birds and stuff. Crandon Boulevard. We're gonna walk over here and stuff like that. So, and then not only about the hurricanes, bad weather, you know, inclement weather, hurricanes and stuff like that, it's one of the probably reasons why they moved from over here, you know. And then, you know, this is a park, you know. Eventually they was gonna have to expand, and there's only one bus service that comes out here, and it only operates, you know, it's not a 24-hour bus service, you know, because, you know, Key Biscayne is not a popular heavy site. The only popular location here in Key Biscayne, you got two popular locations. You have the Miami Seaquarium, and you have the there's actually three popular locations here. You have, first off, you come across the Miami Seaquarium, and then across the street from Miami Seaquarium you have the historical Virginia Key Beach, which was the black only park that was here in Miami. And then when you go further down to the end of Key Biscayne, you go to Bill Baggs Cape Florida State Park, which I also did a video of as well. So this is basically the whole zoo. It looked like if you walk to the zoo, you'll probably be a 30-minute walk, depending on. Now there are, like I said, there are other areas of the zoo that is roped off and closed off because it is the proximity of the area, meaning that it's probably in the area that has been damaged by heavy rain and wind and hurricanes, and it's probably where, you know, they have a lot of tumbled trees and places like that, to where it is hard for people to get to. And not only that, it's probably an area that was once part of the zoo and is no longer area that, you know, that is accessible. So they probably roped it off. Like I said, you saw the little dome in the back. the metal dome, whatever you want to call it. You can only imagine what they had out here. They probably had, little kiddie rides, maybe. I don't know where the actual concession stand would have been at. I know this is right here is where they have the restroom and stuff. And as you saw earlier in part one, we had cabanas and we had a amusement area where it looked like they had carousels and stuff. So we're gonna walk out of there. So now we're gonna go out of the former zoo area. Now this part of the park is basically just a regular park. I don't know when it became accessible to the park, but I'm sure that it probably in the 90s and the 2000s just became accessible to the park, because I know probably when they closed in 1980, this project was still roped off due to they probably had to move a lot of stuff from out of here, meaning the animals they was moving out, and a lot of the equipment they was moving out to move over to the new location. Now the new location is far away from here, far away. Now how they transported the animals, I don't know. Like I told you in the beginning of the part one, a lot of the research that I do on a lot of these episodes, I try to get as much information on a lot of information from hotspots and from the histories here in South Florida. But there isn't a lot of information that I can gather for most of these locations. Like if you Google Crandon Park, they do have a Wikipedia page and they do have several pages that offer information, but a lot of the information only talks about the park, not about, even if you go to the actual parks department page, they're not going to give you information on this used to be a zoo and all of this stuff. So this is Crandon Gardens Wildlife. Stroll through the gardens and discover old remnants of animal enclosure from our past. Okay. So this was established in 1948. There it is. Established in 1948. Crandon Park Zoo, Key Biscayne. Now this has pictures. Oh, here. See, this is where I was at part two, where I ended at part one and started at part two. Remember the building I told you they had the encounters? That's one of them. They had elephants here. That is one of the areas. They have several pictures here. If you want to get a clear view of a lot of the pictures, you can come out here and you can look at them yourself. They had this area here. Let's see, you are here. Number 26 is the bears. That's the bears used to be somewhere over here, if I'm not mistaken. I'm at 26. Let me see, 28, flight cage. I don't remember what that is. Condors, the snack bars and the restrooms. Okay, snack bars in the restrooms was probably over. Okay, 32 will probably be the restrooms we just passed. Will probably be 32, and 31 is the snack bar. That's probably in the number one will be the reptiles. Now. Okay, I get it now. So the bridge that we saw that was roped off is the entrance to the children's zoo. That's the children's zoo entrance bridge. That number 9 is the Japanese garden. That is the area I showed you earlier with the little dome that looked like a dome shape that's round. That was the Japanese garden area. And 31, there's two 31s. Which is a snack bar. 15 will be the elephant house. That's probably way in the back there. 17, Piggle. There's a lot. And if you don't have an actual map while you're walking around, it's going to be hard for you to actually kind of figure out where everything is at. 16, 18, 19. Tigers and lions, they was in the same, I told you the little area that I showed you in part one where they had the little rooms in the back, little cage things in the back. That's where the tigers and lions was at. 23 kangaroos, 24 duck lane, which is probably what we came up on in part one, in the area over here where the duck lanes and stuff like that. And alligators and crocodiles is 3. That's the location I was telling you about, where I said that over there where they had the alligators. That was the alligators and crocodiles was at. Number 4 is the monkeys. That will be that little building that I showed you earlier, and it has a picture of it right here. That's the number 4 building. Oh, and they have numbers on it. Number 6 is the building I was at. Number 3, that's where the alligators at. That's the one I went to. Number 26 is the bears. Really? So let me see where 26 is at. That would be where I'm at. So that would be somewhere over here, probably in this area where the bears is at. Oh wow. And 21 is the Flamingo Island. There's a lot of that is here. If you want to take a trip, number 5. Let me see what number 5. The office and clinic. That will probably be that little building right there that sits over there. That's probably the building. 14. No, there's a lot. And then 12 black rhinos. 13. There's a lot. So if you want to intake it, you can come out here. I may come out here in the near future and do another video. Probably take a picture. Have an extra device, take a picture, and I'll go through all of this. So yeah, this is what the Crandon Park Zoo is. Now we're gonna take the rest of part 2 and we're gonna exit out of here, and we're gonna go and explore more of Crandon Park. We're actually gonna do a part 3 of this, because part 1 we entered Crandon Park and we did a little bit of walking through Crandon Park, and then we entered the zoo in part 1 and did episodes of the zoo. A lot of the birds there. And as you know, like I was saying, there are a lot of areas that is flooded because of the heavy rain and severe weather we've been having the past couple of days. As you can see, the grass is flooded, so you gotta watch out. Like I was saying, part 1 we entered into the park and we did a little bit of part of the walking inside of the park, and then we entered into the zoo. That will probably be the entrance that you would take to the zoo. I did another entrance from this side, and we started out in the zoo. Part 2 we continued in the zoo and we went around certain areas of the zoo, and now we're exiting the zoo and we're going to continue the rest of our walk through Crandon Park. This is the cabanas that I was telling you about. I wish I could go and see the inside of the cabana. Now, there are several locations that have cabanas or rental spaces, like if you've seen my video of Oleta River State Park, where they have cabins you can rent out at Oleta River State Park. And if you've seen my video of Virginia Key Beach, I was wondering what was going on. But yeah, and in Virginia Key Beach they have little houses or little cabins where you can rent out and stuff like that or whatever. But at the same time, you have to, that was that. So now let's go over here, and people are taking pictures. This is nice, they're taking pictures. I'm not gonna go on the beach. There's no point in me going on the beach. We're just gonna go into certain areas. We're gonna walk this way. This is a concession stand where they oh yeah, this is a concession stand. Oh, you can order food here. I might want to buy something to eat here. I'm not for sure. I was thinking of leaving here and going to one of my favorite restaurants here there in Brinkle. The bus that takes you here, because I like to take public transportation because you get a scenic route of a lot of stuff instead of driving. You take public transportation and they get you. And a lot of these parks, there are some parks that do have restaurants. If you looked at when I visited the state park in Hollywood, Dania Beach, they had a restaurant called Whiskey Hideout, and I enjoyed it and I loved the food. And it might be another thing here. I'll probably get something to eat. Hence, I might do a hotspots in South Florida, but not a hotspot in South Florida, but a food review, depending on if I do come in here. Let me go see what they got on the menu. I'm gonna go walk to try to see what the menu looks like. We're probably gonna continue on part 3. Oh, I'm on a part of the walkway I shouldn't be on because this looks like a area that's designated for growing. And it's look like it's Latin food. They're playing Spanish music, but I'm gonna go this way now. I would say that Crandon Park is another beach area where you go to, but a lot of people do go to Virginia Key Beach, and there are a lot of beaches along the Rickenbacker Causeway that you get to before you get to Virginia Key Beach, and then before you get to Crandon Park. And also Bill Baggs State Florida Cape Park. Bill Baggs Cape Florida State Park also has a beach as well, so this is one of those beaches that is not man-made, but you have several beaches here in South Florida that is man-made to where it was created like for people to have water access, and they can go swim and stuff like that or whatever. Now, this part of the beach, I don't know much about this part of the beach, but I know that this beach stretches out, and a lot of people who come to this beach, remember, Rickenbacker Causeway is accessible by a toll road. And I believe the toll road is, now I think it's tolled by plate. I know that it wasn't part of any, like Miami-Dade Expressway Authority, which is the company that owns and operates a lot of the toll roads here in South Florida. This is a privately owned road, and you had to access it with a C-Pass or with money. And I think now they do toll by plate because a lot of the toll roads here in the state of Florida uses toll by plate, where they scan your license plate as you cross the toll road, and they bill you with the money. So that is that. Now, like I said, access to this beach, this beach opened up in 1947, so access to the area was denied unless you was accessible by boat. And I'm quite sure that the boat rides was probably cheap. I don't know where the boat rides picked you up and dropped you off at from the mainland. I know there probably wasn't far, but because like I said, there is a ferry that takes you from downtown Miami to Miami Beach and things like that, but a lot of the area was probably accessible, was only accessible by boat until 1947. So a lot of people who went to Virginia Key Beach, that's what I did try to go back at one point to try to see if I can catch the train rides, because they said on the weekends they have train rides and carousel rides, which I did go on a weekend one time and they didn't have the ride, so I was disappointed. And it looked like they did have a carousel here because it says amusement area back there, and they probably did have a carousel, which probably is not operational now. So kind of fact that I liked the fact that it looked like it was going to rain earlier, because it did take away the heatness. But now the sun is out, and even though I'm got my hydration system, because a lot of times when I do these videos, I do come with hydration. Shout out to 7-Eleven, because they did have a buy one get one free on Zephyr Hills water. And when I was buying it, the lady was like, "Oh, it's buy one get one free." I thought it was only with the 7-Eleven water, but it was buy one get one free with the Zephyr Hills water. And I was like, no way, as well too. So I ended up getting a extra Zephyr Hills water. So shout out to 7-Eleven. By the time you probably see this video, if you see this video anytime soon, the buy one get one free is probably over with. And I'm not promoting 7-Eleven. I'm just giving them big ups for giving me buy one get one free. Giving them big stuff. I'm not going to do this whole park because I know, this is a very big park and it stretches like long It stretches, oh, excuse me, it stretches on like a line, it stretches far. So I'm not going to do a lot of this area. I am going to go to as far as I can go. And then because the main purpose of coming out here was to get a look of the zoo area, the Crandon Park Zoo area, because as you knew, when this park moved, it moved in 1980, and that was the same year I was created, and don't really know what. And even if I was created, it's not like my family was taking me here to Crandon Park Zoo. You know, I didn't get to go to Zoo Miami until I was in my early kiddies age, when I was in elementary school and things like that. So I didn't get to go, you know. Now, they do have a nature trail. And I remember doing the nature trail the last time I visited. I ended up walking the nature trail. And I remember I told you in video 1, there was a marine lab where back in when I was in elementary school, we ended up coming to this lab and we ended up going into the water and picking up little, sea life in our nets. And I guess we brought them back to the marine lab, which is right over there. And I, like I told you, I remember because I wore my fresh LA Gears into the water, and I was like, ugh. And I would have thought about it back then. LA Gears was one of the coolest name brand shoes you can have. And even though they're trying to make a comeback, and people probably still have LA Gear shoes, it was one of them things that was like that. And that is where the marine lab is. And over in this area is, I believe, is where the nature trail is, because I did walk the nature trail one of the few times I was here, the last time I was here. So I was like, okay, walk the nature trail. But yeah, so but the main reason of coming out here was to go and get a outlook of the Crandon Park Zoo, because the last time I was here and I did you scared me, lizard, iguana. Last time I was here, I forgot that there used to be a zoo here, and I never went and toured the zoo area. Now that looks like another restaurant, and we're probably gonna go take a walk over there and see. We're almost close to near the ending of this episode. I'm gonna go walk over there, but if it ain't nothing interesting, I'm not gonna eat, because I'm probably still gonna go to where, like I told you, the bus service that here, it takes you from the Brickell area, and it comes way all the way, and it ends at the Bill Baggs Kick Florida State Park. Even though it doesn't go inside the state park, it ends there, and it takes a loop around where and stuff like that. So, and a lot of people that catches the bus is mostly people who work here in the Key Biscayne area and lives on the mainland, because like 90 to 95% of the people who lives here and on Key Biscayne have vehicles, so they don't travel by bus, because this is not 24-hour food and drinks from Spain. Okay, so that's it. So this is basically what Crandon Parks look like. I know there are a lot of parks here in South Florida that stretches. Like, this is one of the parks that stretches. We did do an episode of Morningside Park. We did several episodes of other parks. This is one of the parks that's historic, because this park opened up in 1947, and in 1948 they established a zoo here, and the zoo came. Eventually Miami was going to get its own zoo, because we all knew that Miami is destined for a zoo. Palm Beach County has a Palm Beach Zoo, which we'll probably do in the near future. Broward does not have a zoo, but we all knew eventually Miami was going to get a zoo. It's just the fact that we didn't know it was going to come this too soon, and because of a breakdown of a traveling circus, and it had no choice but to leave their animals here, and that's what created the zoo. Now we're gonna stop here, and we're gonna do a part 3, which is not gonna be much. This is the marine lab that was there, and we're not gonna do much for part 3. I'm gonna take another break and drink some more water. I had a bag of chips, After I finished part one, I sat down. I had a bag of chips that I got, and I was drinking some water. So now that I did a little bit more walking, I'm gonna pause here. And this, I think this was the Marine Lab. If it's not the Marine Lab, it's probably further over. But I think this probably was the Marine Lab. And if not, it was probably further over. I'm gonna do a little bit more walking to see if this was the Marine Lab, because I know there behind the Marine Lab there is a nature trail that, you know, I did do. So we're gonna stop right here for now. As always, stay safe, stay blessed. I'm putting down a napkin because I'm wearing white shorts because I wanted to wear light clothes today because of the heat. So as always, stay safe, stay blessed, stay hydrated, of course, because we're outside. And this is the Roundtable Talk Part 2, Crandon Park Zoo. Stay tuned. I'll see you in a couple of minutes for Part 3. This is Roundtable Talk. I'm C Money. Take care.